I like to be more open about the finances, which I think India needs more of.
What's your net worth?
At the end of 2024, I crossed $1 million.
That's a huge number. How do you feel?
The first crore felt the best, but the real compounding happens over a long period of time. I was a trader and now I am like a very simple dal chawal investor. Invest in your skills and then increase your income. Then you can start worrying about investments. I started the digital nomad life much before the pandemic. Now I'm sitting in a countryside town in Vietnam.
What's the most fun or quirky financial decision that you've ever made? Today, for this episode, we have Rishabh, who runs his remote business and is currently living in Vietnam. In his words, he's a digital nomad. Rishabh, why don't you quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks, Nikita. Hello, everyone. My name is Rishabh, and I've been running a remote business for the past 8 years. And even though this was not meant to be a remote business, I transitioned from a typical traditional office setup to a remote business, which allowed me to live the digital nomad life. And I'm currently in Vietnam, so really happy to be on the show and very excited about this entire series, not just this episode.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Rishabh. So to begin with, जो आपने करियर पाथ चूज किया है ना, बहुत लोगों के लिए ये एक ड्रीम होता है, but they're so afraid to pursue it, like a digital nomad lifestyle. So I'm very curious to know कि ये idea आपके अंदर कैसे आया and how did you find the courage to leave behind that stability of a conventional or a traditional career per se for this exciting journey ahead?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say, just to give people some context, is that I started the digital nomad life much before the pandemic. So it was not a thing at that point of time, right? It was not even cool. I built my first business in 2012 when entrepreneurship was not the coolest thing. I mean, now it's a cool thing. And I started the nomad life in 2016-17 when there was still not a lot of nomad culture at that point of time. There was no platforms where you could find nomad listings and remote jobs and so forth. So it was definitely something that came from inside of me. And the reason why I say that is because when you do something that everyone else is doing, somehow I feel that that's probably a goal or a vision that's borrowed from society. But this was like an original thought that I had that, if I can run this business remotely, why don't I use that option? So the choice basically comes from freedom. So I want to zoom out a little bit and say freedom is the most important thing. Once you have the freedom, you can make a choice. And I don't think that the digital nomad is the only choice. Once you have freedom, you could also choose to be in your hometown. You could choose to be with your mom and dad. You could choose to be with your boyfriend/girlfriend. Like you could be anywhere. The important thing to understand is that you need to chase freedom of all things. So for me, like that's the biggest mission. So freedom of money, which is financial freedom, freedom of location, which is what allowed me to become a digital nomad. And eventually, as you build assets and businesses, freedom of time, which allow you to work on whatever you want to work on. Like that's the hardest to achieve. So honestly, on that spectrum, I think freedom of location is the easiest to achieve. It's much easier than financial freedom because you could still be working remotely. You don't have to leave your work to have freedom of location. And then the choice is what to do with the freedom of location. That's being a digital nomad for me. It could be completely different for someone else. So I think it just came from chasing freedom. But the choice I made from that freedom was to see the world, to explore local cultures, which then led to me becoming a digital nomad.
So, Rishabh, now let's move to a very interesting question, which I think our viewers will be very interested in. What's your net worth?
Okay, so I always stand for transparency. So I'm just going to give the direct answer. At the end of 2024, I crossed $1 million. So I track my net worth once a month, which is at the end of the month. So I'm going to track again at the end of Jan. But I've been very, grateful and blessed to have crossed that benchmark of 8.5 CR at the end of 2024.
Amazing. That's a huge number. How do you feel?
I mean, the first crore felt the best. I'll be very honest with you. It was the hardest as well, and this is what I also talk about, that all of the hard work and the sweat and all of that, and then it just pays off. It's like you are just rolling down the hill after that. So when you climb a mountain, right? So you're climbing up the mountain, you feel everything. You feel your calves, you feel everything when your every muscle is paining. And then when you're climbing down, it's like a relief. So now I just feel like I'm just climbing down the mountain, and on the way I'm collecting all of these 1 crore,
Mm-hmm.
1 crore, 1 crore. But that, like, the first crore was like I play a lot of video games,
So
so that's in my head.
when did you
Yeah.
actually reach your first, like what was your age back then?
Yeah, so I started working when I was 20 years old, right? So I was in college, but at the same time, I started a blog. I sold that blog recently, but that was a college blog. So I made a blog. I started running Google Ads. I got like a $500 payout from Google Ads. And this was like Make Money Online 2010 edition. So it's not like what it is now. Like, there's so many things now. There's drop shipping, there's e-commerce, there's a lot content creation. There was no content creation as such. It was like you write a blog, you run ads. Like, that's the only way that you can make money online. And 2010, and it took 10 years. So 2020, I hit my first year.
That was
From
4 years, 4.5 years back.
Yeah, and then every year my net worth increased by 1 to 2 CR
Yeah,
every
that's what
year
my I
after
was
that.
trying to do the math. In like four
Exactly.
years, you
Yes,
hit 8.5 CR. And
exactly. And
2020 you were
I'll
at
tell
1
you,
CR.
exactly. And I'll tell you, like, all of the crazy things that I can summarize all of the crazy things that have happened in this time, but most of the craziest stuff happened in those 10 years, right? Because I was improving my skill, I was executing digital marketing campaigns, and with 10 years of experience, I could ask any amount of money from my clients, right? With all of the skills that I learned. And apart from that, the compounding was in my favor. So all of my funds and everything was growing at the same rate as before, but it was getting me much more money back. And the other beautiful thing that happened is that I also just started doing the same services for bigger clients, right? So I always say you can make more money by finding more work, or you could do the same work for a bigger business, right? So you get paid more essentially. So all of my skills were compounding, my investments were compounding, my client case studies was compounding. So the beautiful effect of compounding I saw in these 4 years, which is why, I also spoke about this in a YouTube video as to why your net worth will compound after 1 year. Like, all the magic happened for me after that.
Yeah. It exponentially expands after 1
Correct,
CR,
correct.
right?
And you can plot it on a curve. Like, it's very
Hmm.
mathematical. It's not like something that it's hard to visualize, but once you actually plot it, the math always works out. Because if you look at the compounding formula, even if you don't see the entire formula, the t is in the exponent. So time will just make it exponentially increase.
Clearly, in 4 years,
Yeah,
it got near like to a 7, 8x amount.
correct, correct.
That's crazy. That's
Exactly eight. Yeah,
crazy. Eight,
8.5x in, yeah,
yeah,
4 years.
that's crazy. That's crazy. So, Rishabh, in what currency are you currently earning? I mean, also does that add to your earnings compared to if you were maybe earning in India, let's say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest transition that has happened for me. So I make most of my money in US dollars or pounds. So I have UK clients, I have US clients, and you get a multiplier, right? And I spend in Vietnam dong, which is even better, right? So I'm not spending in INR, and $1 is like 24,000 Vietnamese. So it doesn't make you rich as such, but you have more purchasing power essentially.
So, while you're running a business and an agency, so that can also include a lot of non-consistent, let's say, cash flows. So, how do you account for that and manage that?
Yeah, that's always a challenge. So just like you have in personal finance, we keep talking about emergency fund. Like, you should have an emergency fund for 6 months or 1 year, depending on your risk appetite. We have the same concept in business as well, especially for agency businesses, because agencies don't raise money from investors because we are a cash flow business, right? In an agency business, you basically try to keep 6 months worth of your people's salary in your bank account, because that's the money. If you have to keep the people and you don't have the projects, it typically takes 3 months to replace the projects, like to find new clients. But just on an outer side, I keep 6 months of the salary of all my team members in the bank, in the company, right? So there's always this time where you have, let's say, you lose a big client or you leave a big client, and then you might need to replace them with 2 or 3 small clients, and that could take 3 to 4 months. So just keeping like a 6 months of company expense emergency fund for people's salary is always a good idea.
So you also, I mean, also not, you run a business. So how much do you pay yourself from that business?
So what I do is I take dividends. So in the sense, like I know a lot of people take salaries from their own companies. What I do is I take it in the form of dividends, and the reason for that is that we analyze the business profitability every 3 months, right? So the reason I don't like to take monthly salaries is because I want to pay the team first, and then end of 3 months we say what's the profitability level, and based on the level I'll take a certain amount. But like usually a minimum is like 2 lakhs a month because I need that for my SIPs, and then on top of that I think I spend around 1.5 lakhs a month as a household expense. I have 2 children, me and my wife, so 4 people, 1.5 lakhs a month.
So, any financial mistakes that you made early on that actually shaped your investment philosophy as of today?
Two mistakes, I think two of the bigger ones that I will point out. There must be many more. There was one which I had mutual funds. So the first thing when I was running the business, I was saving money. I didn't want to know anything about the stock market and anything about the financial world. I was like, I want to make money. Like that's the thing I want to focus on. So I saved up to 25 lakhs. And then when I started traveling, I slowly started selling those mutual funds to fuel my travel journey, right? While I was still working remotely online and everything, I started with Southeast Asia. So I was not spending a lot. But as soon as I started traveling in Europe, I was like, okay, expenses are going up. Let me take a little bit from the mutual fund. Let me take a little bit from this fund, that fund. I don't like this fund manager. Let me take some money from this fund. So obviously, I basically, shot in my own head. I was like killing my own compounding by taking that money out of the mutual fund. So that's something I never did after that again. That was the first mistake. And then the second one was I think I wasted a couple of years in swing trading, which I should have ideally just invested consistently. Now looking back at that, but it was a fun experience. I was single at that time, so I didn't really care about losing all the money or anything as such. But it was successful, fortunately. So I was a trader, and now I am like a very simple dal chawal investor. So index investor. So
Family,
I
family guy.
yeah, family guy. It's much better and more well suited for my
Yeah.
lifestyle.
So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to a newcomer who's just starting out and wants to actually achieve financial independence, financial freedom, just like you?
Yeah. I think like the same thing that I said for myself. I think the first one would be try to make more money. Because a lot of people say, get the best fund or invest in the best thing and invest in the best instrument or save a lot of money. I feel for young people, like I'm 35. So when I look at people who are in their 20s, I mean, I'm not judging anyone, but I think they can make much more money than me, but they cannot save as much as me. That's what I have learned. If you push them to save, they're going to feel a little bit stressed about it. Let them live the life that they want, but then let them try to upgrade their income because they are so much better suited for the digital ecosystem. They can do social media, content creation, side hustles. There's so many side hustles right now, but I would say if you increase your income, and for that you have to increase your skill. So income is basically made in proportion to how skilled you are. So if you can add to your skill, invest in your skills, and then increase your income, then you can start worrying about investments and all of these things. It's good to know, it's good to learn, but to actually execute and get the benefits of compounding, your income has to reach a certain level. Like take this example. 10% of 1,000 rupees is 100 rupees, and 10% of 100 rupees is 10 rupees. But you are getting a 10%. Let's say someone who's making 10,000 rupees is also getting a 10%. Someone who's making, let's say saving a lakh a month is also getting 10%. But when you have a portfolio of 1 CR, the 10% of that is 10 lakhs. The 10% of that is 1 lakh. So at the same return rate, you will see much better benefits when you have your lump sum is higher. And that's only going to be higher when you make more money, right? So increasing income should be the first thing, which will come from increasing skill. And once that's stable, then is the time that you can, fancify your investment, so to speak.
Right, right. Correct. So now, since we're talking about investments, what is your
Yeah.
investment strategy for 2025? And are there any specific assets that you're bullish on?
Yeah, so I'm an index investor, and I think I'm playing the game of being in it for the longest period of time versus getting the best returns. And the most important metric for me is how much money can I put into the market rather than like how much money will I get from the market. And that's important because I want to put more money in the market. Like that's all I'm chasing. So when I'm looking at investment, I'm like, can I put more money into investing? And I don't choose very fancy things, so I just invest in the index, right? So Nifty 50, Next 50, mid cap 150, small cap 250, gold and silver. That's about it. And some of the money I keep in Nasdaq 100 as well, so the US index for geographical diversification. And this all makes up 50% of my portfolio. So 50% of my portfolio is equity, right? And then 25% is real estate. So I have apartments in Vietnam and I would put them on rental for rental income or on Airbnb for Airbnb income. And then 20% cash. I actually hold a lot of cash. So 20% cash, people are worried what happens when the market goes down, you invest more. What happens when the market goes up, you invest more. Essentially, for me, the answer for everything is invest more. So I keep that 20% cash to keep investing. And also, like I said, as an emergency fund as well. So that's a combination of debt, cash, FDs. Like that's all things that I can take and put in the equity. And then finally, I think we're left with 5%, which is a combination of gold and silver.
What was your first SIP? Do you remember? At what age did you start and what was your first SIP?
Yes, I actually started at 19 and my first SIP was 5,000 rupees. And yeah, I started my business at 20. So that was my first SIP. But the funny thing is I only learned about SIP and I did not know that I have to have like a bank account even. So I didn't even have a bank account. And I was telling my mom that, can you start this 5,000 rupees thing and I will pay you the money from whatever. And then she's like, don't worry, I'll put in the money. So, that's how it started. It got transferred to me when I opened my bank account. 2012, I think, is when I opened my bank account. And then I started investing consistently. Like I said, I sold some of it when I was traveling. And then I moved things from mutual funds to index funds. So that's another step when I lost a little bit of compounding. But since then, it's been consistently growing. When I reached a 1 lakh a month with SIP, I thought that's what I'm going to continue till I die. Today, my monthly SIP is 2 lakh rupees. So I think it's just
Oh, wow.
grown from there.
Amazing. And how many active SIPs do you have at the moment?
So there's around three. And then I would keep investing lump sum because I run a business. So, like I said, I think you also had a good question about the income being inconsistent, right? So for people like us, it's like better to just keep putting in lump sum. I think for stable salaried employees, it's just best to like SIP, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you invest 2 lakh in three primarily
Yeah.
mutual funds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Have you ever
So
missed your SIP?
they are index funds. Yeah.
Index funds.
Yeah.
Have you ever missed an SIP?
No, I haven't missed any SIPs. Yeah, I just keep stepping them up. Like that's the only thing. I go in and I'm like, this year let's do 2 lakhs, right? Like so, I just keep increasing the amounts.
Amazing. Since we're talking about expenses and income, what do you think about passive income? I mean, in itself, it's a very big buzzword. What's your main source of it, and how do you scale it?
First of all, I would like to say like there's no 100% passive income. Like you really have to work for income, any kind of income. But you can think of this like a scale, like a spectrum, right? So there's a spectrum of active to passive, and then there are some income streams which are more active, and then there are some income streams which are less active, right? So I like to think of it in that way. So for example, basically if you do a job and that's the primary way that you make money, you are basically exchanging your month for money, right? So that's like the most active that you can get, right? If you work on an hourly basis, now you have slightly more freedom. Let's say you're a freelancer who charges by the hour, but you still have getting paid for the number of hours that you put in. So it's still very active, but with a little bit of freedom. Then when you go to passive, it's like mostly most of those passive income streams are that you put a lot of active work up front and then you get passively paid out over a long period of time. Look at YouTube, for example, right? So a lot of people make a lot of money from YouTube. You could say that they made a video 2 years ago and they still make money from that video, so it's passive. But they put in the hard work to make a video every week for 2 years consistently. So it's quite active, in my opinion. I would say what I experienced as truly passive was real estate. So the apartments that I have on rent or on Airbnb, I just feel they are quite passive. If someone takes an apartment on lease for 1 year or 2 years, I can just forget about that thing for 1 or 2 years. And upfront, I did not really have to put any work as long as I had the capital to buy the apartment. My blog was also up at some point of time. It was just like there were ads running on the blog, people were coming on the blog, people were clicking on the ads. So that also was like a decent passive income stream. One of the best ways that we are currently making passive income in my business is recommending tools and software. So when we work with clients, if the client is looking for a software, we would just share our affiliate link of the software. And then if they use the software for on a monthly basis, we would get a payout every month from the software.
So, Rishabh, talking about money more a little,
Yeah.
as a child, when you were growing up, what was your relationship with money? And, did your upbringing influence your financial habits?
I think definitely a lot. So I'm a single mother raised son. I lost my father when I was young, and my mother was setting herself up as a she's a doctor, so she was setting herself up in her own career path in Delhi. And I saw the hardships of a single mother, especially in India. Being a single mother is like very challenging, very hard. She's a very strong woman. She taught me a lot. She's still very independent and she runs her own clinic. She works with one of the top hospitals in Delhi. And I learned to be frugal at the same time, spend money where it's needed. I think that's the biggest skill that people are lacking, at least my friends who I speak to on a regular basis. So my mom was like, let's not buy this, it's not needed. But if there's some organic vegetable or some healthy food, she'd be like, let's buy this. So I was like, okay, now like I could see the difference of when she has something that she thinks is like worth the investment, she will just buy it. But otherwise, she also taught me to be very frugal. And when I saw the hardships of a single mother growing up, I was like, 18 is the age after which I will not take any money from my mom, right? And that's why I started thinking of, going to google.com, make money online, right? Like the three magic words. So I started thinking of all those things because of the pressure. I think if I did not see that in my house, in my family, and I never felt like we had less money or anything like that, but I always felt she is doing so much for me that I don't want her to do so much hard work. And this, I mean, doctors are doctors, so she continued to do the hard work. But I got sort of independent way earlier. Like I started the agency at 21. That's the reason why I did not also, want to study more. Like my mom was like, "I'll invest into it. Let's do your masters and so forth." I said, "I can do my masters while running a business. I can learn on the job, right?"
So, do you have any your favorite movie, book, or let's say a quote that actually influenced your mindset towards wealth and investments?
I recently read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and not, I mean, first of all, I resonated with it completely. I think it's my favorite finance book. And the next is, I actually have it on the desk, right? So it resonated with me, and it just, because there was so much talk. There is always so much talk about which stock to buy and what to do. And I was always like, I don't even know what the market is doing, up or down. And 50% of my 8.5 CR is in equity. And my friends are like, you don't even know if the market is going up or down. And then when I read this book, I was like, okay, I'm on the right path, right? Because this guy is talking about it. Everyone is talking about it now. So someone has to step in and make it cool, I guess, because it's not the fanciest way to invest. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles. I always say, when you look at income, people are saying, okay, this is my income, this is my salary. But when you look at investment, they're like, all of these fancy universe of things are there, right? I want to twist it the other way around. I want to say increase your income, diversify your income, do everything with your income. And then once you reach a certain stage, then you look at all the fancy investments, right? So the psychology of money is really like a good read. I think that it also shows how human it is, right? So if something happens in a person's life, they can just completely forget all the finance principles, take all their money, put it in something. They can just completely forget all the financial literacy based on what's happening in their lives. So just knowing that you can manage your emotions better, you can stay in the game for a long period of time. And like I said, time is your biggest friend when it comes to compounding.
Can you tell us more about compounding? What do you feel about it?
I think it's like, Einstein said it's the eighth wonder of the world. There's also this beautiful quote, since you were talking about the book, where Morgan Housel said that 99% of Warren Buffett's net worth was made after he turned 60. It's just so beautiful to imagine. Like, most of us are thinking of stopping by 40, letting, just taking out all the money by then and, retiring early or whatever. But the real compounding happens over a long period of time, right? You could always, have passive income sources and retire with that, or retire with the returns that you're getting. But I think compounding is so beautiful, but yes, so hard to imagine. It's so hard to visualize. But when I looked at the graph, so I track my net worth on a month on month basis. Like I said, the end of every month, I will track my net worth. When I looked at the curve, it was like this. So when I saw the curve, I was like, this is everything in life is this curve. Skills, it's this curve. Relationships, you invest into relationships, it pays off returns, right? When there's no one with you, you have your partner with you at the end of life. So everything just goes like this. So it's like the graph of life as per me.
It's not just in money. It's about
It's in
everything in
everything.
life.
It's in everything. You do small things for your children. For example, since I'm a parent now, I'm thinking about a lot of these things. I take my daughter to the beach. I live near the beach. uh, just on a day-to-day basis, when they get this nature, it balances their emotions, it makes them calmer. When they grow up, they will have a better character overall, because whatever you do in the childhood is what makes you when you grow up. All of these small things that we do, you go for a walk every day, it changes you as a person in 1 year, right? So everything that you do is compounding. I also take care a lot of my health. I walk 10,000 steps every day, and I saw that, those 10,000 steps add up. Like, it's so beautiful to see that compounding. It's amazing.
That's so true. The power of compounding is, I mean, if you believe in manifestation and power of compounding, it's so real, and it can bring so much to the world and in your own life, I feel.
As long as you can stick to it in the long term, like, everything about compounding is time. And I would even say, like, if you can stick to something for like 50 years at a 10% return, but you can do something for 5 years at a 20% return, you want to do the 10% thing,
Yeah.
right?
Patience and discipline, I think these are
Correct,
extremely
correct.
important, right? Amazing. So Rishabh, there are still people, who struggle while investing and saving in their life. What advice would you give them?
Don't focus on investing and saving. Make more money. No, that's true. But saving is important, because eventually what you save is what you invest. From whatever you save, that's the only amount that you can invest. But I think the people that we are speaking to could be the younger generation. And if it's the younger generation, then I would definitely focus on making more money. If it's slightly people in their 30s or 40s, then I would say you need to save more, because you don't have a lot of time and you need to save more money. And maybe you can't really adapt immediately to the digital ecosystem. But if you're younger, just improve your skills, because when you improve your skills, you can make more money. You don't have to worry so much about saving. Versus, this is my perspective, I know people may disagree with me, but this is what I want to share. It's much harder to save, and there is an upper limit to what you can save. So let me give you an example. Let's say you make a lakh rupees a month. It's a good income. I think it's a very good income. But at the same time, you live in a big city, you live in a metro, you have responsibilities. If you're living in a big city, I can't ask you to every day cook at home. You would like to go out, you would like to maybe go out on the weekends. You could easily spend 40 to 50,000 rupees of that if you get a bike or a car and all, some EMIs. So how much money can you save if you make a lakh rupees? You could save a lakh. I mean, that's the a unicorn example, right? But you can never, because you'll spend at least 50,000. So you can save 50,000 rupees if you're really disciplined. But what if you make 2 lakh rupees a month, right? That's much better, because there's no upper limit to what you can make. No one is stopping you from having a side hustle and having a freelancing project. If a freelancing client can pay you 50K, you now don't need to save anything at all, because you were saving 50K essentially,
And now you have
right?
50K with your
Now you
freelancing
have
client.
50K. I mean, the problem is when you make more and then you spend the additional. But thinking that you're going to have a huge portfolio just by saving at a very low income level, I think you'll have to wait 100 years, right? And that's not practical for most people. So you would rather increase your income and then you will see the benefits of investing and saving, like both those things. But when it comes to, okay, once you've done that, once you have the income level, then we have to talk about the next step, which is saving, and then the next step is investing. Like, it's in that order. My The only addition to that question will be, bring in the income first. So, right, make more money, that's the first goal. Save more money is the second goal, and then finally invest more money.
Yeah, I was actually doing this episode one of this series, What's Your Net Worth, with one of my seniors the other day. And I mean, I asked her a similar question, and she said a similar thing to me. I still remember it was around do not you, it doesn't mean that you have to spend less money, but you have to earn more money.
Yes, exactly. And it's just about limits, because there is no upper limit. Like, no one has said that, Nikita, you can only make 1 lakh a month. There is no way that I cannot allow you to make more than 1 lakh a month. Like, there's no hard limit. But there is a hard upper limit to saving, because it depends on your income, right? So the variable is your income. You can only save as much as a certain percentage of your income. And if that income goes up, that percentage can be the same, but you will still save a bigger amount, and that will go into your investments, right?
So, as you rightly said, that you have a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
What investments do you do for them for their financial future?
Oh yes, for my daughter, it's a very interesting story. Actually, we were in the this. My daughter was born during the pandemic, so it was a hard time because there were no beds available in the hospitals, and they had like locked out the entire floors for the COVID patients. So we were literally sharing a room with 16 people. So there was 8 women who were pregnant, and 8 of their husbands, mothers, sisters, whatever. Like, one person was allowed alongside the patient. And since not everyone works remotely, in most cases they were mothers or sisters. For my wife, it was me. I was like literally sitting under the bed on my laptop, and the doctor said that they're going to take her in another 30 minutes. And I was opening my laptop, and I was like, what are you doing now? I said, I have to start a SIP.
Oh shit.
I literally started investing for my daughter when the doctor took my wife, on the same day. I was like, compounding. When she's 18, she should have a crore rupees.
Oh my god. I'm sure that
So,
she's gonna laugh so hard when she's
yeah,
gonna hear the story after she
yeah.
grows up.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's going to be inflation and all those things, but I was like, let me give her like 1 crore when she's 18, like, not hand it to her, but have it in her account and tell her, boss, you are stable, but now you need to do some job to make your own money. Just knowing that you have this, you can focus on the art of the work and not about the money itself. So I definitely want my children to make their own money, to hustle, to learn the hard way, but at the same time, they have this cushion in the background, right? So I just went, opened one of those calculators, and I was like, I want 1 crore in 18 years. How much SIP should I do? And I was like, duck, let's do it.
Amazing, amazing.
I repeated the same thing for my son. I don't think he deserves more or less than my daughters.
Great, great, amazing. So, Rishabh, in next say 5 years, what do you
Yeah.
think? Would you be willing to like have a stable life in one country, or are you still gonna go towards the nomadic lifestyle?
Actually, we have a dream to be a nomad family. And instead of just me being a nomad, like, the entire family will be a nomad. And I've actually done some small experiments. So, in the startup world, we always test things with a MVP, which is a minimum viable product. So we do experiments. So actually, when my daughter turned 3, me and my daughter traveled alone to Malaysia. And everyone was saying it's too early for a baby to go with just their father. But I was like, come on, like, she's not feeding anymore from her mother. I can feed her, I can give her food. So let's just go. And we had the time of our lives, right? So we traveled to Malaysia alone, and we saw the cities. We went to bars, we went to cafes. I mean, she's 3 years old, but she likes music, she likes the lights and everything. So we want to be a nomad family, like me. My daughter is 3, and she's already traveled 5 countries. So she's been to India a couple of times. She's been to India 5 times. She's been to Bali. She loves Bali. Um, my son is 5 months old, but as soon as he turns 6 months, we're going to travel with him. So we want to travel as a family. Maybe the frequency will change. So when I was a digital nomad alone, I used to be like 1 month in one place. Now we may be like 6 months in one place, or 3 months in one place, because you have to be a little stable with the family. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see how it
Amazing.
goes.
Okay, so Rishabh, finally, if someone
Yeah.
wants to start a journey just like yours as a digital nomad and as a finance enthusiast, what's the one golden piece of advice that you would like to give?
I would say find things that you can stick to consistently for the long period of time when it comes to your investment journey. And when it comes to your income, try to diversify early on, like try to experiment with things. And then once you find one thing that's working, put all your eggs in one basket, go all in on that income stream until that's super stable. Like for me, the second income stream I added when my agency was consistently doing 1 CR per year. That's the time when I decided to add the Airbnb and other businesses, right? So we often think everyone starts out with multiple revenue streams, but you only add the second one when the first one is stable because you need to go all in to actually make it work. So just balance this piece, make more money, and then try to save a percentage of that. Whatever you can save, invest that. And then keep repeating this loop of trying to make more money and then keep your life simple so you can save that percentage and then invest what is left. Keep your investment simple. Overall, I believe in simplicity. I also believe in essentialism. Focus on the top 20% that drives 80% of the results and don't get distracted by the market going up, market going down, this happening, that happening.
Yeah, the mental piece is important, right?
It helps you sleep at night. Like, do what helps you sleep at night.
Correct, correct, correct. Okay, last two questions. I have some
Yeah.
fun questions. What's the most fun or quirky financial decision that you've ever made?
So I love tea ceremonies, like the Japanese tea ceremonies. So you sit on the round table and you have this tea space, and there's a sacred space for them. And when we got this apartment, I turned like one room completely into a tea ceremony room. So I invested a lot of money in that, and my wife was completely against it. So I spent money in this apartment. I got it done completely, but I spent money in the bathroom and the tea ceremony room. I didn't even make my workspace room. Like there's nothing in the background. I just sit in a simple room. But the tea ceremony room and the bathroom, I put in a lot of money. Eventually, the bathroom paid out, but no one uses the tea ceremony room.
That's sad.
Yeah. No one uses it. So we actually had to remove it, unfortunately.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. We sold
And
it. We sold it. So that we got the money back.
oh wow. I
We
mean,
sold
that
like
was
all the
worth it. You got your
furniture.
money back.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, that's great. And any guilty pleasures that you spend on that people actually won't expect from a finance pro like you?
A lot of tea stuff, right? So similar, like I will buy every tea filter and every tea cup that's available. I don't know about other people, but my wife is not a big fan of me buying all those things. So I would buy any fancy tea set or tea filter that comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, great. Thank you so much for your time, Rishabh, today. And if you want to make any shout outs to the audience, if you have any last words to say, please go ahead.
I like transparency because I like to share my portfolio. I like to share what I'm doing because we see a lot less of that in the market. I think more people should just share what they are doing instead of telling other people what to do. So my goal is always this is what I'm doing, boss. I like it. This is what works for me. You make your own decisions, because your journey will be very different. So it has to be personal, but it has to be shared because look at this. Like whenever you go to a rich society, you will see a big car, you will see a fancy car, but you don't see their bank balance, you don't see their net worths. What if it's on loan, right? You don't know what's happening behind. You can see a successful company, the next day you'll be like, oh, that company went bust. So I like to be more open about the finances, which I think India needs more of, which is why something like what's your net worth is really important for our society. At the same time, let people make their own decisions about what they should do with their money. I mean, I would summarize everything by just saying keep it simple, take it easy, focus on increasing income. Don't worry too much about saving money. This is the time that you can spend. At some point in life, you won't feel like spending anyway. So, and keep your investment simple. Just stick to things that you can do consistently.
And if anybody wants to find you online, learn more about you, how can they do that?
I think the YouTube channel is the best place. So I'm most active on YouTube, followed by LinkedIn. So if it's professional related to marketing, I run an agency, then they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Rishabh Dev. On YouTube, my channel is Remote Rish. So my life is built around working remotely.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Rishabh. It was great connecting with you.
Same here, Nikita. Very nice talking.
Investment in the securities market is subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.